from Democrat Sarah Corkery, who's challenging her in Cedar Falls once that race is called. But we start tonight with the race for the White House. Months of campaigning ending tonight. The polls again closed in the last hour here in Iowa, and it will continue to close in other states throughout the evening. We'll work on getting you live looks later in the show at Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's campaigns. Of course, so much focus and talk over the last few months, especially since Harris jumped into the race for the White House. And you see so far the results here in Iowa. I'll move out of the way a little bit. The winner getting those 6 electoral votes in Iowa. Trump carried the state in 2016 and 2020, but you see there Kamala Harris right now with a 1-point lead. Of course, the Des Moines Register poll showing her with a lead in the state was one of the big talking points nationally coming into tonight, this November 5th. You see popular vote so far across the United States, 30% of precincts reporting Donald Trump with a 7-point lead so far, and we'll continue to track everything across the country and keep looking at the Electoral College map. Again, if you're just joining us, we are following the Associated Press making the call on some of these, and really in the last 10 minutes or so, they have also added the state of Missouri to Donald Trump's count, so he is leading that right now, according to the Associated Press, 188 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 99, and again, 270 is the key number that those candidates are chasing. New results coming in at 9. 2 races in Iowa considered a toss-up, so we talked about those already. Crucial to win control of the House of Representatives in Washington. We start with District 1. Marionette Miller Meeks right now with 9% of precincts reporting with a 4-point lead over Christina Bohannon, who she beat by about 20,000 votes in their last congressional race. 9% of precincts reporting there. Again, District 1 covering southeast Iowa. District 3, another one of those that is really being watched on the national level there too. And Lennon Bacam, 54% of the vote so far, with more than half of precincts reporting over Zach Nunn, who is running for a second term in Congress. Continuing to watch that in central Iowa. Again, District 3, including parts of southern Iowa, but as well as Des Moines. The 2 races that experts didn't know whether or not these would be close, but you see here in District 2, Ashley Hinson right now just a point lead over Sarah Corkery, 17% of precincts reporting there as Hinson runs for a 3rd term in Congress. District 4, Northwest Iowa, a very red district, and you see that trend continuing, 6% of precincts reporting, but already Randy Feenstra with a more than 2-to-1 advantage over the Democratic challenger, Ryan Melton. Here is what the balance of power right now looks like in the U.S. House. And again, these Iowa congressional races could really go a long way in determining who ends the evening, who ends the election cycle with control of the House. But you see right now, Republicans have the 114-79 advantage. Still a lot to figure out, a lot of races to call. You see there, all 435 seats on the ballot. This is a lot for one person to talk about. So here come the reinforcements. Iowa's News Now political analyst Nick Weig and weekend anchor, our political analyst, also joining us for tonight, State Senator Liz Bennett, local Democrat, not running for re-election, so we're happy to have her here tonight. And Barrett Hubbard, co-chair for Lynn County Republicans. Wonderful to have you as well.
Thank you.
What do we think so far as we've started to digest everything? The polls have been closed for 64 minutes now in the state of Iowa. What are we feeling? What are we seeing? And what are our reactions to the numbers we've gotten so far?
Well, I would ask you guys, and Liz, I'll start with you. We're seeing some votes that aren't exactly going down party lines. We were talking earlier in some counties. We're seeing Donald Trump outperform Marionette Miller Meeks. We're seeing Christina Bohannon outperform Kamala Harris. What do you think about some of these split ticket voters and why they're going that way?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think Iowans are independent thinkers, and so I don't think this is the first time we've seen people vote differently down ticket from the way that they have voted at the top of the ticket. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
I'd ask you the same thing.
Yeah, I think what we've seen, even leading up in the polls, I think you've seen Donald Trump outperforming a lot of people on the general Republican ticket nationwide. So to see that filter into Iowa is not really a surprise whatsoever. Be interesting to see how they finish the night.
We did see those, just our first count, about a third of the vote from from Lynn County is now in. That's really brought the race in District 2 a little bit closer. I guess, does Iowa feel like a battleground state to you again?
I think from a presidential standpoint, I don't think it really does. From what I heard leading up to this, the Emerson College poll that came out on Saturday as well, just an hour before the Des Moines Register poll, I think had a better feel for kind of it matched kind of what people are seeing on the ground. But as far as some of these individual races, whether it's House races or even state House and state Senate races here in Iowa, I think those definitely can be very competitive.
Well, I think Iowa had been somewhat written off on the national level as a red state. Of course, prior to that, we've always been a purple state, and I think that goes back to really that independent thinking with Iowans. So I think that the poll that came out earlier this week did really surprise a lot of people that Iowa is very much in play. Very much in play.
It's just a reminder that the only poll that really matters, the ones on election night. Just in the last 5 minutes, too, the Associated Press calling Utah for Donald Trump. He's up to 198 electoral votes compared to Kamala Harris's 99. Is another round of polls now closed across the country. Let's turn now, and we'll certainly get back to you guys here in a little bit. Thank you again for being with us tonight. But Iowa's 3rd congressional district, we talked about it already, one of the tightest races in the country, which could play a major role in that congressional control in the U.S. House. Iowa's News Now State House reporter Skylar Tlaw live at Lenon Bakam's Watch Party in Des Moines. We saw the 8-point lead. Skylar, what is the mood like there at Bakam's Watch Party?
Yeah, Mitch, I'm here at the Iowa Democratic Watch Party, and the mood is pretty great. You know, anytime a Democrat somewhat goes up in the race, they start cheering. Everyone's really excited, and especially we've been mentioning register poll showing Lenon Bakam, potentially outperforming Nunn. And this race is always close. We saw that in the midterms in 2022, whenever Representative Nunn went against Sidney Axne, the Democratic incumbent. But abortion has been a major issue in this race, with Bakam pointing to the fact that Nunn supported a similar abortion ban to the one that is currently in effect now here in Iowa. Now, Nunn has also pushed back against claims that he doesn't support those exceptions, and it's kind of gone back and forth. We've seen a lot of political ads and what have you, and I spoke with House Minority Leader Jennifer Converse earlier, who says it's issues like abortion and public education that she feels will put Bakam over the top and unseat Nunn. But looking back at the 2022 midterms, when Democrats also focused on abortion, they weren't successful here in Iowa. But Converse says for Iowans, that is now real since the law is in effect, and they're expecting that to impact the race. And now we'll just have to kind of wait and see what, if any, impact it does have. Live in Des Moines, Skylar Tlaw, Iowa's News Now.
District 3 to District 1. Christina Bohannon trying to unseat incumbent Marionette Miller Meeks. We'll get live reports from both sides after the break. Back on Iowa's News Now, checking in on that race for Iowa's 1st congressional district. The margin holding about the same, with 11% of precincts reporting Marinette Miller Meeks in pursuit of a 3rd term in Congress, a 6-point advantage now over Christina Bohannon. It's just about 5,000 votes separating them. Again, 11% of precincts reporting there. Let's go live now to Riverside Casino in Washington County. Iowa's News Now anchor Nicole Danzler live at Miller Meeks' watch party in Riverside Casino. Nicole, how are things there as those results continue to come in?
Yeah, Mitch, we're at the Riverside Casino where people are still starting to slowly come into the ballroom to watch the outcome of one of the most competitive U.S. House races in the country. Now I'm going to step out of the camera to show you who's all coming in to watch the outcome tonight. Now, we're still waiting for Miller Meeks to take the stage, but so far spirits are high and her supporters are optimistic as Miller Meeks pulls in a little more votes so far. Now, she says that she feels confident about her chances at a 3rd term and even made a last-minute attempt to reach voters by door knocking and appearing on a couple of media stations. And if you remember, in 2020, Miller Meeks first won her seat in Congress by just 6 votes following weeks of recounts. Almost 90,000 more people voted in that congressional race than in the 2022 midterm. Now, as the incumbent, she's got endorsements from Governor Reynolds, Attorney General Byrd, Iowa Small Businesses, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and House GOP leaders. And she's turning to the same primary strategy that helped her topple her Democrat opponent, Christina Bohannon, in 2022, highlighting issues on the campaign trail like abortion, immigration policy, and border security, and inflation. Now, the 1st district is covering parts of southeastern Iowa, like Fort Madison, Davenport, and Iowa City. And again, we're still waiting for Miller Meeks to come and take the stage to speak. But until then, we'll bring you the latest election results and have what she says in her speech tonight. But for now, live in Riverside, Nicole Danzler, Iowa's News Now.
Thank you, Nicole. And we just heard from Miller Meeks' camp there, and then checking in on the watch party, we'll head to the Challenger on the other side after the break, see how the Bohannon group is doing after the break on Iowa's News Now. District, we want to bring back in Nick Weig, State Senator Liz Bennett, and Barrett Hubbard. Thank you for joining us, County Chair for Lynn County Republicans. We've heard a little bit about District 1s, 2, 3. We've seen non-Becom jump out to a pretty sizable lead so far as those results have come in Central Iowa. Any surprises from any of your perspectives so far tonight? Who wants to start?
I'll start. You know, I think looking statewide and looking from an Iowa Senate perspective, it seems pretty safe to call one of the Des Moines races for Matt Blake. He had taken on sitting Senator Brad Zahn. I think what we see from that pretty clearly is that a lot of Iowans have been unhappy with the extreme anti-abortion 6-week abortion ban passed by the Republican legislature. So I think that's playing out in that race for sure.
And Zahn, of course, has been in that seat in the state Senate for a number of years.
Yeah, for a number of years.
Surprised that Zahn did not get another term?
I think a little bit, yeah. I haven't really been following that race much here from Lynn County, but
there's plenty on your plate
there's
here on the
plenty
east side
on
of
our
the
plate over here. So, but yeah, I think that is definitely a surprise. Zahn's been there for quite a while here in Iowa, and so we've got.
There's a lot to watch for
Yeah.
sure. And Nick, you're keeping an eye on 19 different things across the state as well in our area.
Yeah, we're seeing things pretty much trend the way we expected them to so far. Coming up in a few minutes, I'm going to go through some of the counties in our congressional races. I did want to ask you, we've seen almost a decade of consistent Republican gains at the State House. Do you see that possibly contracting a bit or even expanding tonight?
It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, we've got a number of races here in Lynn County that are very competitive. So we'll see if the Republicans are able to pick up some of those. I think out in kind of the rural areas, it's definitely kind of Republican control. So it'd be interesting to watch and see kind of what happens in more of the urban centers here in Iowa.
Liz, I have to ask you, I mean, I believe the Des Moines Register identified about 10 to 12 State House races that seemed competitive this year, not enough for Democrats to seize any control in the State House. What are you hoping to see, and what would Democratic gains mean for the party in terms of influencing the agenda in Des Moines?
Absolutely. So I think our hope is to break the supermajority this year. The Iowans that I've spoken with, even folks who are pretty moderate or even Republican, feel that a little bit more balance is needed. So I think that breaking that supermajority will give Democrats a little bit more of a voice, and I think that that'll be reflecting more of what people out there want to see.
All right, well, thank you again to Barrett and Liz for being here, and of course, Nick, well, you work here, you're supposed to be here. All this talk about politics, and certainly that's what you do on election night, but Kason Frericks is also here with your Weather First forecast, and this is his first time tonight, so go ahead.
Yeah, give you a little bit of break from the politics, of course, taking place this evening. And obviously, we've been having sort of an active forecast here over the past couple of weeks. In Cedar Rapids, last 13 days, 5.64 inches of rain, and already well over 2 inches as we've gone throughout the month of November. So we've been really steadily improving things after a very, very dry start to the fall season. Of course, this evening, things are clear and dry outside as we give you a live look down there in Iowa City. Temperatures currently sitting at about 52 degrees and light winds out of the west right now, right around 10 miles per hour. You can see, though, we've had that cold front start to pass its way through the area. All of the rain well off to our east end. We're going to continue to lose some of that cloud cover that's really stuck around throughout much of today. And really, high pressure will start to settle in tomorrow, give us a few peaks of sunshine for sure, but a nice short little dry stretch here. I think tomorrow, Thursday into Friday, we will likely see dry conditions in the area, but we do have another system that will likely move in by Friday night and more so into Saturday. That will bring us another chance for showers and maybe a couple of storms, probably Saturday afternoon into the evening. Here's that cold front now on predictor. That continues to push its way to the east overnight. Some clearing skies begin to take place by Wednesday morning. I think we're probably mostly to partly sunny throughout the day there on Wednesday, but of course dry. It'll be nice to get some of that dry time in there. More sunshine for Thursday. High pressure really just the dominant force there. Winds will generally be out of the north and west as we go over the next couple of days here, and that dry stretch of weather will likely continue as we head towards the end of the week on Friday ahead of that approaching system. So what does all this mean for temperatures? Forecasting about 54 for Wednesday, and we'll stay in kind of that middle to upper 50s range through about Friday, and then we'll obviously have that system start to move in later Friday night. Looks like that rain will likely arrive on Saturday, and then we'll be drying out once again heading into early next week.
Thank you, Case. And we do have some election results just in from Eastern Iowa. Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors race. All precincts reporting, and Linda Leyland, who was the incumbent in this race, will not be on the Board of Supervisors again. Justin Brandt, Chris Schwartz, Meyer, and Cheyenne winning those three, voting for three you could do in that Blackhawk County race. So you see there, Leyland, again, the incumbent, will not continue serving on the Board of Supervisors. From Blackhawk County to Lynn County, partial results in, just 12% of precincts reporting, but you see Molly Donahue already with a 12-point lead over Brandy Zumbach, Maischeid there in the race for District 3 supervisors. Let's stick with the county auditor race in Lynn County. Again, Joel Miller not running for re-election. You see Todd Taylor there with a sizable lead. Again, only 12% of precincts reporting in Lynn County. Joel Miller again deciding to step down. He's been auditor since 2007 in Lynn County. Plenty of stuff to continue to analyze, Nick, and we'll send it over to you to keep an eye on everything.
Yeah, Mitch, we are watching a number of races here. I'm going to go ahead and scroll ahead here. Right now, take a look at this. This is the District 1 race right now. We're looking at a 350 vote difference right now, with 14% reporting in District 1 between Marinette Miller-Meeks and Christina Bohannon, as close as they advertised in this one. Now I want to take a look. This is the breakdown right now. We're seeing Clinton County trending towards Bohannon. We're not seeing any results from Johnson County. That's what Bohannon's going to be counting on to run up her numbers. That tends to be almost a 2-to-1 advantage for Democrats in Johnson County. And then real quick, we're going to flip over to District 2. Right now, Ashley Hinson holding a pretty good lead as she is running up numbers in the more rural counties. Right now, Corkery does have a lead in Lynn County and Blackhawk County, but right now it is not amounting to enough to make up the difference in those other counties. So these are the two congressional races in our area we're watching. Still close, still too close to call, and we'll be updating those as they come in. More of Iowa's News Now, right after this.
Now to Iowa District 3. We have seen this lead been a fairly significant one so far for Lenon Bakam in Iowa's 3rd congressional district, considered to be one of the tightest races in the country coming in. Zach Nunn cutting into that lead that Bakam had early in the 67% of precincts reporting Zach Nunn a 4-point disadvantage to Bakam. That was 8 earlier in the night at last check. So Nunn going for his 2nd term in Congress, starting to cut into that advantage, but Lenon Bakam right now still leading that race in Iowa's 3rd congressional district. And again, this is one of the races that they're watching nationally, one that could ultimately decide what party controls the House moving forward. Iowa's News Now State House reporter Skylar Tallal live at the Bakam Watch Party in Des Moines. What is the mood now, Skylar, as that lead has started to shrink that he jumped out to earlier tonight?
Well, Mitch, you actually just mentioned it. The race did come up on the street, and people were actually cheering. You know, they see Bakam is still ahead in the race. And I think the interesting thing is that most of the people here tonight have said they felt it was going to be a close, competitive race. You know, the two candidates have kind of been neck and neck the whole election cycle. We've seen the political ads and the name calling and different things like that. So I think everyone here is just really excited and optimistic about the results. Live in Des Moines, Skylar Tallal, Iowa's News Now.
Skylar, thank you. Plenty more to watch as we get a live look over Cedar Rapids on this election night. More expert analysis, and we continue to watch the races in Iowa and beyond after the break on Iowa's News Now. About a 10-point lead right now, according to the Associated Press. They have yet to call the state and hand out the 6 electoral votes for Iowa, so continuing to watch the results come in from there. More than a quarter of precincts in Story County going to have to count ballots by hand because they had some issues with voting machines at 12 out of the county's 45 precincts. County Auditor Lucy Martin says they are still not exactly sure what happened at last check. After the hand count at those precincts, her office is actually also going to request a recount on Thursday just to double check and confirm those results. There was a ballot printing issue that also led to some problems in the state of Pennsylvania today. Again, one of those big battleground ones that we are keeping an eye on. And we've got State Senator Liz Bennett, Barrett Hubbard, the Lynn County GOP chair, with us as well, and of course Iowa's News Now anchor and political expert ourselves, Nick Weig. Continuing to watch what happens in the state of Iowa when it comes to the presidential race. You've been tracking that and just figuring out how everything is falling into place there.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we've got enough of the vote in right now that we are seeing a margin that's going to be pretty far off from where that register poll wound up. I guess, Liz, I'll ask you, what is your reaction to those numbers? They haven't called the race, but it's pretty clear that Trump has a clear inside track here in Iowa. And do you think that's derailing these close races in District 1 and District 2 that we're seeing?
Yeah, I think the whole situation is really interesting. My personal view is I'm always very cautiously optimistic. I think we've seen over the past 8 to 10 years that the methods that we use to conduct these types of polling don't necessarily correlate with what happens at the ballot box. And so I'm not necessarily surprised. And I think, of course, whatever happens with the top of the ticket will impact what goes on in local races.
Bennett, we talked earlier about Trump outperforming Miller Meeks in some counties as we saw the count come in. She was the only Republican major candidate here in Iowa he did not endorse. Do you think that that's hurting her?
That definitely could be hurting her. And like I said, I mean, as we've seen, like kind of just nationally, Trump outperforming Republicans just in general. In the general congressional ballot, he's been outperforming them in the polls leading up to the election here. And so, I mean, if people are unhappy with the way that the infighting and stuff that's gone on within the House of Representatives in D.C., that some of these people, like say Miller Meeks or Zach Nunn, might be kind of vulnerable if residents there are seeing that and thinking that we want something different. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a long night tonight, I think.
Yeah, we certainly got a long ways to go in the count tonight.
Yeah, we've seen, again, in District 3, Lennon Bacom was out to an 8-point lead. That has shrunk to 4. Circling back to that Des Moines Register poll, I know you'd voiced a little skepticism of whether or not Harris had a lead of any kind, let alone a 3-point lead. Did you think Trump could go and win the state by double digits as he's leading right now, according to the AP? I
think it's probably fairly close. I mean, I think when you look at the Emerson College poll that had it at about a 10-point lead and compared that with the Ann Seltzer poll for the Des Moines Register, even when you count margin of error and things like that, I think that, like I said, I think the 10-point lead is more in the ballpark. So whether it turns out to be a 8-point lead, win by 8 or something like that, I think that's going to be a lot more accurate than the Ann Seltzer poll. Because like when you look at some of the crosstabs that were in that Seltzer poll and the changes that she was forecasting from what we know happened in 2020, it was just a massive shift in that. And that's really not what we've seen on the ground when we've been out knocking doors and talking to people and hitting the streets. So that's why I really voiced the skepticism to the Ann Seltzer poll.
Yeah, and it was such a talking point nationally for the 72 hours leading up to election night, and now seeing a very different story. Again, thank you to Liz and Bennett for being here, and we'll continue to check in with them. We've got a lot of bonds to talk about, folks, tracking a whole lot of these on the line across the state tonight, particularly school bonds. Still waiting on results for a lot of these, though. Waterloo Community Schools looking for that approval on a $165 million bond that would combine East and West High School. If approved, they'd use those old buildings for 8th and 9th graders. They would keep names and mascots. Remember, that's the one that school board passed, and then a petition was filed, and voters ultimately got it to be on the ballot. In Iowa County, Williamsburg Community Schools want approval on a $22.3 million bond proposal that would help get a new career and tech center built, also make upgrades to the middle and high school buildings there. That would include a new HVAC system. Monticello looking for a $15 million bond that would merge and upgrade its 2 elementary schools, would also add to the high school and build a central campus there in Monticello. Decor Schools asking voters to approve $38 million to build a new elementary school. They say teachers are just dealing with really tight spaces and leaky roofs in the current facility there. Union Community School District, this is their first bond vote ever. They're asking for $20.5 million to do maintenance at elementary and middle schools there at Union. Highland, looking for a $15 million bond approval for high school and elementary school renovations. They say they're about to pay off an old bond, so this in that district would not raise taxes. It would just extend the current rate they already have in place. Voters in the Centerpoint Urbana Community School District deciding on a $20.6 million bond. Things like security would go into that bond, roof repairs, HVAC updates. They would also have construction on the renderings you see there on a 600-seat high school auditorium. The district says the current debt levy rate, about $4.05 for every $1,000 in taxable property value. They say the rate would not change if the bond is approved. And a couple non-school bonds up in Waverly. The first $5.5 million bond that would replace the golf clubhouse in town. That's 75 years old. They're looking to get something a little more modern there. Second in Waverly, just a hair under $9 million would replace the city swimming pool. That one's almost 60 years old, looking to get those upgrades there. After the break here on Iowa's News Now, more analysis as we look at the State House, continuing our election night coverage here in 2024. Back on Iowa's News Now, continuing our election night 2024 coverage. Iowa Republicans hoping to keep that 7-year stronghold on the State House in Des Moines. Iowa's News Now anchor Nick Weig live in studio to give us a look at how things are unfolding there tonight.
Yeah, very early on right now, Mitch. Not a lot of the races have been decided. We'll start with the House right now. Republicans securing 15 seats so far in races tonight, 13 for Democrats. Of course, all 100 seats up every 2 years. Right now, it is a supermajority, 64 Republicans, 36 Democrats in the Senate. We'll see if Democrats can pick up any seats or if Republicans will hold or make this majority even stronger. Just taking a quick look at the Iowa Senate, right now we have 19 seats settled for Republicans, 10 seats for Democrats. It's a 33-16 advantage in the Senate right now for Republicans. So right now, there's no signs that we're going to see any shift of power. Republicans will retain power likely at the State House in the coming legislative session, but it remains to be seen whether or not Democrats in the House or the Senate can regain any seats, depending on the outcome of the other races. We're seeing former President Trump performing very well here in Iowa. We expect that. AP has just called Iowa. Iowa has been called. For former President Trump, he has won Iowa's 6 electoral votes, but we're still watching those congressional races, District 1, District 2, District 3, still too close to call, and we're waiting to see if Republicans can hold on to the perfect 4 here in Iowa, or if Democrats can win back any of those seats. Mitch?
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, 53% of precincts reporting in Iowa, the AP calling it for Donald Trump. He is a 12.5-point lead right now over Kamala Harris. We do also have results in from our first bond of the night. We just talked about these a couple minutes ago, and you see there the results in Williamsburg, that $22.3 million bond that would build some renovations to the elementary building, as well as some career and tech centers. It has 51% of the vote, but this was one of those that needed a supermajority. All precincts reporting it did not hit 60%, so the bond does not pass there for the Williamsburg Community School District. Keeping an eye on certainly all the rest of those bond votes, and we'll continue to follow reaction to Donald Trump winning the state of Iowa for a 3rd straight general election in his race for the White House, up to 210 electoral votes. Kamala Harris still holding at 112.
And certainly seeing some rainfall across eastern Iowa throughout this morning. Nothing too heavy. That was off to our south and east, but we are tracking more rain chances by the weekend. We'll break all that down for you when we go beyond the 7-day. It's coming up next.
Back on Iowa's News Now, and if you missed the news just before the break, Donald Trump, for a 3rd consecutive general election, has won the state of Iowa. You see there the AP calling the race, 55% of precincts reporting Trump holding a 13-point lead over Kamala Harris. And again, we're less than a week removed from the Des Moines Register poll that showed Harris with an advantage in the state of Iowa. You see there the updated electoral college map across the United States. Trump now with 210 electoral votes, 60 away from clinching the White House. Kamala Harris with 112. We want to bring back in our panel State Senator Liz Bennett, Barrett Hubbard, chair of the Lynn County GOP. Let's get your reactions too. We talked not too long ago, Barrett, about you being skeptical of that Seltzer poll. We're talking about a 15, 16 point right now gap between what was reported in the poll and what we've got tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a miss. I mean, pollsters are human, so they're going to come up with misses like that. But, you know, I mean, Ann does have a track record in Iowa of really understanding the state and usually being fairly spot on. So this is, you know, one of those outliers, and I guess only time will tell as to, you know, how big of a miss that it is. Kind of reminds me a little bit of when she missed on the Bob Vanderplaat's gubernatorial primary race a number like 10 years plus years ago.
Yeah, it was about a 20 point miss there. Your reaction, Liz, to a race that, you know, 72, 96 hours ago, Democrats in Iowa were feeling a little optimistic about things.
You know, I think it's interesting because we have seen the former president pull ahead here. But out on the ground, we definitely saw a lot of people getting out to vote, people who hadn't taken the time to vote before, a lot of positivity out in neighborhoods. So although Trump has pulled ahead, I think we did have a lot of enthusiasm for Vice President Harris here in the state of Iowa.
And we're certainly seeing some of that enthusiasm pour over into congressional races, still watching everything in District 3 and in District 1 as well, watching a very close race there as Nick Wagner joins us as well.
Yeah, we're still seeing some late vote totals coming in from Lynn County, from Johnson County. That's really holding up calls in those races. We're also seeing Polk County is largely in, but we're still seeing that District 3 race too close to call as well. District 4 even not called. We still believe that is going to go to Randy Feenstra, the incumbent Republican. But again, we're still waiting to find out the balance of congressional power here in Iowa.
And these were congressional races we've talked about all night. These are the races that they're washing in Washington to see how everything goes out. And we're still wrapping up here on Fox 28, but of course flipping over to CBS 2 for your news at 10, where Barrett and Liz will join us as well. But again, there's still weather. It's Eastern Iowa after all, no matter if it's election night or not. Case, and it stopped raining at least, right?
Yeah, it finally has stopped raining, and we're going to get some dry weather here for at least a couple of days before we're probably going to see more precipitation towards the weekend. We'll take a deeper dive into that in just a second. But some of our rainfall totals across the area, this is just strictly for today. Cedar Rapids, the big winner, about 3/4 of an inch. Iowa City and Dubuque, just over 3/10 of an inch, and some lesser totals up there in far northeastern Iowa. This is just rainfall estimates from radar over the last 24 hours. You can see some of those greens popping up close to Cedar Rapids, indicating, yeah, that's where some of that heavier rain fell as we went at least throughout today. But in that 24-hour span, most of the precipitation has been kind of expanding from the Chicagoland area down through St. Louis, and some very impressive and very heavy rainfall totals through the state of Missouri. So a lot of that activity actually stayed off towards the east. In terms of anything right now, we are drying out. All of the rain is off to our east, and we're really losing quite a bit of the cloud cover here. So some dry weather over the next couple of days, but watching that weekend once again, we'll likely see our patterns start to increase, become more active, and likely see our next system start to move in as we go throughout the day on Saturday, looking at some showers, maybe some storms for Saturday afternoon and evening. Let's go beyond the 7-day here, talk those long-term temperatures. Obviously, we're going to be hanging out into the 50s the next couple of days. Slight drop off for this weekend, and overall, as we head towards the end of the month, temperatures should be pretty seasonable for this time of the year.
Thank you, Casey. Give you a live look over Coralville this election evening. Iowa's News Now back after this. You see no winning, taking the golf course decision there on the $5.5 million bond proposal by about a 2-to-1 margin there. But again, and they were looking to replace that 75-year-old golf clubhouse. Just under $9 million bond for that new swimming pool in town passes by about the same margin, more than 2-to-1 there. So the city of Waverly will be replacing their pool that's almost 60 years old there. Real quick, Monticello is passing by the thinnest of margins that $15 million bond to upgrade and merge its 2 elementary schools. They would also add a central campus to the high schools there. Plenty more to continue to follow on Iowa's News Now at 10 over on CBS 2. See you in a few minutes. Coverage here in Iowa's 1st Congressional District. Nick El-Haj and Nicole Danzler splitting duties covering that race for us here. One of those we're watching really closely tonight. We've also got State House reporter Skylar Twall covering District 3, that congressional race, which is turning into a heck of a one there in central Iowa. We also have crews at Congresswoman Ashley Hinson's watch party in Cedar Rapids, hoping to hear from her competitor as well, Sarah Corkery, in that 2nd congressional district race. But we start tonight at 10 on Iowa's News Now with the race for the White House. In the last 15 minutes or so, it has been called for the state of Iowa and those 6 electoral votes for Donald Trump. The 3rd consecutive general election he has won the Hawkeye state. You see there with 69% of precincts reporting Trump with a 13-point advantage over Kamala Harris, only about 96 hours removed from that Des Moines Register poll that had Harris with a 3-point lead. Of course, Trump won the state by about 8 points and 9.5 points in 16 and 20. And again, there was some optimism on the Democratic side that maybe things were turning with that poll, but seeing the tables go the other way there. And you see the full map here for the electoral votes from the Associated Press. Those are the numbers we are using here at Iowa's News Now. And you see Trump 210 electoral votes so far compared to 113 for Kamala Harris. Trump 60 electoral votes away from a return to the White House. We are joined by our analysis team that we've had here through the entire night here at Iowa's News Now. Of course, you know Nick Weig, our anchor and political correspondent and reporter. State Senator Liz Bennett, who's not running for re-election, so kind enough to join us here tonight. And Bennett Hubbard, who is the chair of the Lynn County Republicans here. We'll start with you and the news that we've been following here, Bennett, of Donald Trump and this win that right now, compared to 16 and 20, looks like he might be on his way to even surpassing that. Does that surprise you at all?
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, Trump has been very favorable in the Hawkeye state here. I mean, looking back at the caucuses that we had in January, the first presidential candidate in a contested primary and caucus to get over 50% of the vote there. So, I mean, he's always been very popular here in Iowa. So the fact that he's got this big of a lead right now, maybe it's a little shocking that it's this big, but I'm not surprised at all. Like I said early on, the Emerson College poll that had about that 10-point lead that came out on Saturday, I think from things that I heard on the ground and stuff like that after it was released, said that that was a much more accurate picture of what the Hawkeye State was going to turn out to be, and it's turning out to be the case here.
Liz, we've talked already tonight about just the optimism, though, across the Democratic Party in the state of Iowa, and we are seeing a couple of those congressional races really showing out on the liberal side.
Yep, absolutely. We have some really close races here, particularly District 3 and District 1. And I think it tells you a lot when you have a race against an incumbent that is so close. So I think we are remaining hopeful for those races for sure. And we had also mentioned that in Des Moines, our Democratic challenger, Matt Blake, took out sitting incumbent Brad Zahn, who had been in the legislature for a long time. So definitely some bright spots and some hope for Democrats tonight.
And of course, Nick Weig keeping an eye on anything and everything. He's even brought the laptop over, his own laptop here to keep an eye on things.
Yeah, we have Republicans now leading in every contest here in Iowa. Zach Nunn has pulled just ahead of Lenon Bacam. Very little outstanding vote in Polk County. Those rural counties are starting to run up the numbers for Congressman Nunn, but we're talking about a 2,000 vote difference between them right now. Real quick, District 1, Marinette Miller Meeks maintaining a lead of about 13,000 votes right now, with the majority of it now in. Problem is, not really getting many numbers out of Johnson or Lynn County yet, so that is still too close to call.
Still watching that, and of course we'll have those live reports coming up from that first congressional district cruise at both of those watch parties tonight. Let's start though with the district that I think we all thought would be called first, and it has been called first. Randy Feenstra with a 3-to-1 advantage almost over Ryan Melton there in a district that is traditionally pretty red in the state of Iowa. You see there with 54% of precincts reporting Randy Feenstra will remain in Congress representing Iowa's 4th congressional district. Let's get to the races that we've talked about that were considered to be possible toss-ups. These are races they were watching in Washington, races that could help decide the balance of power in the House of Representatives. District 1, Marinette Miller Meeks going for that 3rd term, which would be a 2nd consecutive win over Christina Bohannon. You see there, 58% of precincts reporting Miller Meeks with a 6-point advantage over Bohannon, but you just heard Nick talk about still getting some votes in. We go live now to Riverside Casino in Washington County. Iowa's News Now anchor Nicole Dantzler live at Miller Meeks' watch party at Riverside. Nicole, the numbers continue to come in, the advantage remaining about the same for Miller Meeks. What is the mood there at the watch party at Riverside?
Yeah, Mitch, Marinette Miller Meeks is once again trying to keep her seat in Congress to represent Iowa's 1st district. Now, she actually just walked into the Riverside Casino just a few minutes ago, and now she's talking to folks in the audience. So I'm just going to step out of the camera to show you what's going on behind me right now. We're told that she is with her family and her friends and her campaign team tonight. As of 9:53 p.m., Miller Meeks leads the race with 52.6%, and that's with 66% 50% of the votes counted. Miller Meeks says that she's confident as she looks to get a second straight election night win over Christina Bohannon. This is a key race that saw the candidates clashing on border security, immigration policy, and the economy. But one issue that could sway voters tonight is abortion. This summer, an Iowa law took effect banning abortions after 6 weeks with some exceptions. Still, Miller Meeks is hoping to pull ahead for the win in the 1st District, which covers much of the southeastern part of the state, including parts of Iowa City, Burlington, Oskaloosa, and Newton, and Indianola. So we're still waiting for Miller Meeks to take the stage and speak tonight. So we'll have more updates for you tonight about that coming up in just a bit. But for now, live in Riverside, Nicole Dantzler, Iowa's News Now.
Nicole, thank you. We turn from Miller Meeks' watch party to Christina Bohannon's in Iowa City. Iowa's News Now reporter Nick Elhaj live for us at Big Grove off Gilbert Street in Iowa City with the watch party there for Bohannon. Again, last check, Nick, down 6 points. What is the mood there at Big Grove tonight?
Mitch, people are really starting to get anxious here at Big Grove in Iowa City, where Christina Bohannon's supporters are waiting for more results in this tight 1st District race. Every screen is tuned in, every auditor's website is up, and you can really feel the crowd's nerves growing by the minute as those initial results start to trickle in. Bohannon hasn't made an appearance yet, keeping everyone here on edge as they watch the numbers. Now, Iowa has leaned more Republican recently, but this district remains a swing one, with both parties working hard to claim it tonight. Supporters tell me they're anxious and worried, but no, this could go down to the wire. We'll be here to keep you updated as it unfolds. Live from Big Grove, Nick Elhaj, Iowa's News Now.
Nick, thank you. We turn now our focus to District 3, and again, this is turning into a tight one. You see here, as Zach Nunn pursues a second term in Congress, Lenon Bakam in the early goings here in central Iowa had an 8-point advantage over Nunn, but you see here with 84% of precincts reporting, this is only a race decided right now by 3,300 votes, as Nunn now holding that slight advantage there to try to get that second term in Washington. The two races in Iowa that experts thought wouldn't be maybe as close. You see the advantage here for Ashley Hinson as she pursues a third term in Washington as well. 57% compared to 42% for Sarah Corkery. 86% of precincts reporting there in Iowa's second congressional district rather. As we take a live look at her watch party, not too far from us here at Broadcast Park in Northeast Cedar Rapids, just down Collins Road. Take a ride onto First Avenue and you'll be at Spare Time there, and you take a live look as we are waiting for Representative Hinson to take the podium there, and you see quite the turnout for her as she pursues and appears to be closing in on a third term representing Iowa's district in Congress. We're going to have coverage from Des Moines after the break on Iowa's News Now, again watching that third congressional district separated just by a few thousand votes, and one of those that they're watching on a national level as well. We got a live report coming up after the break. Back on Iowa's News Now as we continue to watch a very close race in Iowa's 3rd congressional district. 84% of precincts reporting in Iowa's 3rd, and you see there Zach Nunn, the incumbent, going for a second term in Congress with a lead of about 3,300 votes over Lanon Bakam, who early in the going tonight had about an 8-point advantage over the incumbent Nunn. We want to go live right now to Des Moines, Iowa's News Now State House reporter Skylar Talal following this race as they are in Washington too. Skylar, a race that they thought might help determine the balance of power in the House of Representatives. You're at Bakam's watch party. What have the mood been like in really the last half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, as things have really gotten close and now Nunn with the slight advantage?
Yeah, Mitch, the mood has definitely shifted here. Whenever we got here, there were a bunch of smiles, and now everyone's kind of just, keeping their mouth shut, watching the screen. You can even see over here, it has started to kind of fill back up, but a lot of people have actually left. We've been seeing people kind of, file out. Bakam and Nunn are still neck and neck. It is something that we did expect. We've talked about the 2022 midterms. This is a tight, competitive race. I think Democrats, came into this very energized, very excited, especially after seeing, that Des Moines Register poll over the weekend. And now I think they're kind of just waiting to see what those results are. Live in Des Moines, Skylar Talal, Iowa's News Now.
Thank you, Skylar. And we want to go live now, I believe, to Ashley Hinson's party. Again, this is just northeast Cedar Rapids at Spare Time, just off First Avenue, where in the last few minutes the race has been called. She will serve a third term in Congress, so let's take a live listen to Representative Hinson addressing the crowd in Cedar Rapids.
A lot of those final results to roll in from across the country, but I don't know about you, I think tomorrow is going to be a great day, don't you? I think we're going to wake up happy. It's the day we officially send Joe Biden to the beach, into retirement, and Kamala Harris hopefully packing back to California where she belongs. Let's fire Kamala, right? I think tomorrow is going to be a great new day in America with strong conservative leadership in Washington, D.C. once again, and I'm hopeful we will have President Trump leading us in the White House once again as well. So let's talk about what day one of a President Trump will look like. Closing the border. I think we all agree that needs to happen. Restarting American energy projects, firing swamp bureaucrats. We need to do a little of that. And you know what? I know the man pretty well. I bet he'll do most of that before most of us are on our second cup of coffee tomorrow morning. He's going to be busy. But it's going to be nice to have a president who doesn't need a mid-afternoon nap in order to get through the day. Someone who's going to work around the clock for working families like we have here in Iowa, and a president that will make America great again. Let's go do that, huh? So I ran for Congress as a mom to fight for my kids, to fight for yours. I'm a minivan driving mom. I ran because
celebrating a win
so much.
for a third term in Congress there as you take a live look at her watch party in Cedar Rapids. Plenty of election coverage still ahead on Iowa's News Now. Back on Iowa's News Now, this election night 2024, we want to talk about a state house race in central Iowa, and you see the results here, and we'll tell you why this is significant. This is Matt Blake, Democratic challenger, winning with 100% of precincts reporting in District 22 for the state Senate, a 4-point win over Brad Zahn, who has been in the state house for a number of years. He is currently the Senate pro tem, so this is a big win for Democrats there in the state house as they try to get any sort of foothold on making some headway in cutting into the Republican advantage there in the State House in Des Moines. And it is official, Iowa's Constitution will be changing after this election season. The Associated Press calling both ballot measures final. We talked about these for a couple of weeks now. The first question was really just going to codify the voting age as 18 in the state of Iowa. You've been able to vote at age 18 in the state for a while. The Constitution, the state Constitution, still had that 21-year-old wording, though. Again, Iowa's been following federal law. They're just changing the verbiage there to codify 18-year-olds being able to vote. But this also changes the words about only U.S. citizens being able to vote in Iowa elections. It's already illegal for non-citizens to cast a ballot here. Again, this changes the verbiage in the state constitution to make sure that's in there as well. The second one of these ballot measures, these constitutional amendments, was clarifying the line of succession for Iowa governor. Basically what it says is if a lieutenant governor in Iowa would have to become the governor in the middle of a term, they'd just be able then to appoint their own second in the command, their own lieutenant governor. Then that lieutenant would be the next in line for governor. We saw this kind of play out a bit when Kim Reynolds took over in 2017. A lot of bond measures we've been tracking throughout the last few weeks and months across eastern Iowa. Waterloo Community Schools, we're looking for approval on a $165 million bond to combine East and West high schools. If it's approved, they will be using the old East and West high schools for middle school buildings for 8th and 9th graders. You see 100% of precincts reporting. It is a yes. They just needed that simple majority, but by a 60-40 margin, that bond passes. Waterloo will be combining East and West high schools in a major move there in Blackhawk County. Still waiting on some more results in other races up there, but we'll keep an eye on everything there. Williamsburg Community Schools, we told you about this during our 9 o'clock hour on Fox 28, looking for approval on that $22.3 million proposal. This would have helped a new career and tech center, make some upgrades to the middle and high schools, but you see there it needed that super majority, that 60% to pass. It does not. Does get a majority, a simple majority at 51%, but shy of what it needed to get that bond to pass in Iowa County. In Monticello, they needed that supermajority as well, and they got it for that $15 million bond for a new elementary school building and repair and renovate other buildings around the district. They'd also make a central campus for the high school. Decorah Schools looking for approval on a $38 million bond for a new elementary school. Teachers said they were dealing with really tight spaces and leaky roofs. I don't believe we have results in from Winnesheet County yet, though, so still keeping an eye on that $38 million bond for Decorah. Union Middle School. This is their first bond vote ever. They were looking for $20.5 million plan approval for maintenance at elementary and middle schools. Still waiting on results there as well. Highland looking for a bond approval for $15 million for high school and elementary school renovations. They're about to pay off an old bond, so this new one actually wouldn't raise taxes. It would just extend the current rate. Voters in the CPU Community School District, Centerpoint-Urbana, deciding on a $20.6 million bond for things like security, roof repairs, HVAC updates. They'd also want to build a 600-seat auditorium in the high school. The district says the current debt levy rate is about $4.05 for every $1,000 in taxable property value. That rate will not change if this bond gets approved. Again, waiting for numbers there. We do have a couple non-school bonds that we've updated you on over on Fox 28. We'll do it again for you here on CBS 2. That $5.5 million bond for a new golf clubhouse in the city of Waverly does not pass. It needed 60% yes. It ended up getting 67% no on that city golf course. That golf course is about 75 years old. The other bond measure, just under $9 million for a new swimming pool in the city of Waverly. That swimming pool is 60 years old. You see there, that does get the supermajority to pass by a 70-30 margin. Lots more to continue to watch here on Iowa's News Now. We'll be back right after this. Back on Iowa's News Now, this election night 2024, as we continue to follow results in Iowa and across the state. Again, it's been about an hour or so since the state of Iowa was called by the Associated Press for Donald Trump, getting those 6 electoral votes from the Hawkeye State for a third consecutive general election. You see there with 83% of precincts reporting Trump with a 12-point advantage in the state of Iowa. He won in 16 and 20 by margins of about 8 and 9.5 points there. Again, we keep mentioning that Des Moines Register poll that had Harris leading by 3 points over the weekend. There were other polls there, an Emerson poll, that had a little more of what we are seeing here. Here is a look at the latest Electoral College map. Donald Trump up to 230 electoral votes. That is 40 away from the 270 needed to clinch a win. 179 so far for Kamala Harris. They're still counting a lot of votes out in California, up in Minnesota as well, Wisconsin, Michigan still counting plenty of votes. North Carolina in the last few minutes has been called for Donald Trump as well. We want to take you live back now, though, to Iowa City and Big Grove on Gilbert Street, because there has been a big shift in the race for Iowa's 1st congressional district. You're not seeing it right now, but we are told by our reporter, Nick El-Haj, the crowd was jumping in the last few minutes because Christina Bohannon, with 80% of precincts reporting, has taken the lead over Marionette Miller Meeks, who is looking for that 3rd term in Congress. So watching that race, and you see them really locked in on everything going on there. As we come back here to Broadcast Park, Nick Wide continues to be with us, Liz Bennett, and I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Barrett Hubbard. It's been a long night, folks. We got a lot of information, but Barrett, let's talk to you about this, what we're seeing in the 1st congressional district and the 3rd. These are 2 races that we really talked about being close and as advertised. What do you think so far?
So, I mean, I think we're seeing, looks like Zach Nunn's probably going to end up pulling it out. Polk County is pretty much in, and so you're seeing a little bit more of the rural counties down there that are pulling in that vote for Zach Nunn. And so I think by the time we see this thing finish out over tonight, he's probably going to end up going there. And the 1st district here with between Christina Bohannon and Marionette Miller Meeks is definitely one of those ones that it's going to go all the way through. I mean, what was it, 4 years ago that we saw this thing come down to a 6-vote difference? Sure. And like recounts and so they're no stranger to close races in the 1st district.
Sure. Real quick, 15 seconds before we got to go to break, just your reaction to what's happening in the 1st and 3rd.
You know what? We're having a hard night here as Democrats. We're still holding out hope for Lennon Bacom and definitely hopeful for Christina Bohannon. So Democrats, we're still crossing our fingers.
Still a lot to figure out across the state of Iowa and the rest of the nation. We'll be back after this.